Soma laughed. It was an innocent smile that he rarely showed to others. His laughter this time comes from the heart, unlike what he usually shows in front of others. Pyeongwoo treated Soma and the others well. After coming to Chengdu together, Pyeongwoo did not force Soma and the children in any way. He didn't tell them what to do, and left everything to the children's judgment. It was Guyan's own will to build his own information network in Chengdu, and it was Yunyo's decision to run a brothel. Pyeongwoo had no influence on the children's choices. Soma was well aware of how difficult it was, so he was even more grateful to Pyeongwoo. Pyeongwoo asked Soma, "Tea?" "No. Just a glass of water." Pyeongwoo poured water into a glass and placed it on the table. Soma's eyes glinted, because he saw the letter lying next to the glass of water. "Who is it from?" "Is it from the Steel Tower brother?" Pyeongwoo nodded his head silently, while Soma wrinkled the tip of his nose. "That brother is a bit too much. Why does he send letters like this so often?" In the past few months, Jin Jianwoo has sent a total of 3 letters to Pyeongwoo. The letters all began with the same phrase, "To my dear friend." Pyeongwoo had never read the letter Jin Jianwoo sent to the end. He would always lose his motivation to do so just by the first phrase. Pyeongwoo didn't know why Jin Jianwoo liked him so much to the point of calling him a friend and acting so affectionate. Even after leaving Chengdu, he would send a letter to Pyeongwoo, informing him of his current situation. Isn't that older brother's unrequited love a bit too much? Soma smirked. Pyeongwoo did not even read the letter from Jin Jianwoo to the end, nor did he reply. Even so, Jin Jianwoo did not get tired and continued to send letters. Soma did not understand why Jin Jianwoo was being such a true friend. Does he even know that his correspondence is being neglected like that? Soma thought that Jin Jianwoo wouldn't be able to keep sending letters like this if he knew how his letters were being treated. As he thought of Jin Jianwoo, laughter kept coming out of his mouth. Soma said to Pyeongwoo, "Don't you have to reply to his letter even once? It's his choice to send a letter, and it's my choice whether to reply or not." "Indeed." Soma nodded at Pyeongwoo's firm answer. After returning from the Xia Lion Temple, Pyeongwoo rarely went out. He just stayed in his own residence to refine his martial arts. His assassination methods had already reached the highest level, but he still felt that it was lacking. He tried to reflect what he felt while he was fighting the Xia Lion Temple and Jin Jianwoo. Thanks to his efforts, Guido now has a proper system. It will be completed as a single martial art. Soma thought that there was something different with Pyeongwoo. He used to feel scared in the past, but now he doesn't even feel that way towards him. Soma knew well that it wasn't just because he had gotten used to Pyeongwoo. He has improved yet again. Pyeongwoo was constantly changing as he developed. Pyeongwoo, whom Soma thought was already on the 100-foot pole, one was still constantly whipping himself and taking another step forward. By looking at Pyeongwoo, he could see the amount of effort Pyeongwoo put in his martial arts. Even if he woke up from death, Soma didn't have the confidence to put in such an effort, nor did he have any intention of doing so. After years of hard work, he finally found freedom, so he wanted to enjoy it for as long as possible. Unlike the other 2 children, he hasn't found a job he wanted to do yet. But surely, if he continues to enjoy his freedom like this, he'll be able to find a job that suits his aptitude someday. Pyeongwoo stood up and said, "I'm going to the workshop." "What about you?" "I'm coming, too." Soma quickly followed. After visiting the Xia Lion Temple, Pyeongwoo entrusted the phantom daggers and wrist armors to Tang Sochu. Some of the phantom daggers were completely broken during the fierce battle, while the wrist armors were cracked. The only person who could completely repair Pyeongwoo's equipment was Tang Sochu. Tang Sochu's workshop was booming. The warriors of Chengdu called Tang Sochu the #1 craftsman in Sichuan. He was that talented and good at making weapons. So warriors who came to hear the rumors entrusted Tang Sochu to repair their weapons. Although the warriors had to wait 3 or 4 months in order for their weapons to be taken in by Tang Sochu, customers still kept on coming. But it didn't matter to Pyeongwoo. Tang Sochu has always treated Pyeongwoo's weapons as his top priority, but even then, the reason why Pyeongwoo had to wait for several months for his weapon to be repaired was because the damage to the phantom daggers and the wrist armor was so severe. The phantom daggers and armors were broken to the point that it's as if almost having to make a new one. After leaving his equipment to Tang Sochu, Pyo-woo stopped paying attention. Because he had absolute faith that Tang Sochu would take care of it. Pyo-woo and Soma went down to the basement of the Red Villa. It was a space separate from the basement where Guyan was located, and was connected to the underground waterway of Chengdu. All the filth from the city was flowing through the underground waterway, giving off a terrible stench. However, Pyo-woo and Soma did not show an expression of disgust. As if taking a walk, they walked down the waterway and arrived at Tang Sochu's workshop. Brother Soma is here, too. Tang Sochu greeted the two people who popped out of the workshop without being surprised. Hello, brother. Soma hung on Tang Sochu's leg. Tang Sochu rubbed Soma's head and said, "You're here, kid." Hee hee. Soma smiled cheerfully. Tang Sochu was one of the few people he truly liked. So he sincerely asked, "Is there anyone you want to kill?" "I'll kill them for you." "Not yet. Tell me once you do, and I'll kill them for you." "All right." Tang Sochu nodded his head without making a panicked expression. When they first met, Tang Sochu became confused by Soma's way of speaking. But he had grown used to it as time passed. Tang Sochu looked at Pyo-woo and said, "I'm glad you came. I considered sending someone if you didn't. It looks like the repairs are done." "Yes." Tang Sochu nodded and pointed to the workbench. On the workbench lay a black leather belt and armor. The phantom daggers are almost as good as new. It's mixed with some 10,000-year-cold iron, too, so it won't break easily anymore. 10,000-year-cold iron. I've been having a hard time finding it lately. The cold iron was the best metal that any craftsman wanted to have. Even a small amount of the said material can dramatically increase the strength of the weapon. However, it was so precious that it was not easy to obtain. If Tang Sochu had not become as famous as he is right now, he would never have been able to get his hands on it. This is because it was an item that could not be sold to blacksmiths without skills. Just by looking at the traces left on the wrist armor, he could tell how fiercely Pyo-woo fought. For that reason, Tang Sochu made the phantom daggers using cold iron, and reinforced the wrist armor with the remaining materials. These won't break easily anymore. Thank you. HMPF. I'm doing this for you because you're older than me, but the others are not going to do it. Tang Sochu's nose pierced the sky. He had always been neglected. But now, there was no one in Chengdu as well as Sichuan who neglected him even after the collapse of the Tang family. This is because the #1 artisan in Sichuan has a supporter named Pyo-woo. After returning from the Xilialian temple, Pyo-woo has never performed any activities outside. Nevertheless, most of the influential people knew the fact that Pyo-woo exists somewhere in the city. And the fact that he is protecting Tang Sochu. If anything happens to Tang Sochu, a catastrophe will come to Chengdu that very day. And his anger will spread to them as well. For that reason, powerful and influential men in Chengdu strictly guarded the vicinity of Tang Sochu's workshop. A peaceful zone was created implicitly. Thanks to this, Tang Sochu was able to concentrate on his work with peace of mind. This is also the reason why his recent works boasted exceptional quality. His talent as a craftsman was in full bloom. Famous warriors from Sichuan province lined up with their money to ask him for a commission. However, it was extremely rare for Tang Sochu to receive a request directly. It was Pyo-woo's items that Tang Sochu paid the most attention to. By using cold iron, the strength and performance of both the phantom daggers and armors was dramatically increased. It might be easy to say, but the process was by no means simple, since the items were for Pyo-woo. Tang Sochu repaired it with great care. Pyo-woo nodded his head. Because he liked the items, Tang Sochu has never betrayed his expectations. The same was true this time. I like it. Pyo-woo nodded his head. Tang Sochu smirked and said, "Well, knowing my skills, isn't it difficult?" "No. I'm not even arguing about that little boy." Tang Sochu looked at Soma with a soft smile. Then Soma laughed. "If there's a guy you don't like, tell me. I'll kill them all." "Yes." Tang Sochu rubbed Soma's head. Soma closed his eyes and enjoyed a rough hand. Tang Socha thought Soma was like a puppy. Of course, he was too ferocious and sharp for a normal puppy. Pyo came out after talking for a long time with Tang Socha. He thought about going back to the underground waterway, but he just chose to come out. Pyo walked down the street with a scarf covering his face. Next to him was Soma walking with a bright smile. It was Chengdu that experienced bloodshed several times over the course of a year. However, there were no traces of bloodshed anywhere in the city. People had already forgotten about the past, and were immersed in their daily lives. Merchants tried to sell even one more thing by soliciting customers, and those who traveled to and from the street were unwittingly eager to sell their pockets. Pyo stopped walking and watched the scene for a long time. After a long time passed, Pyo did not move, so Soma looked at him with a puzzled expression. Brother. Why? Should we go? Let's go. I'm hungry. Then let's eat and go. Let's go to the Xianjianru. Why there? The fruits there are delicious. Really? Yes. Soma answered without hesitation. Pyo nodded and followed Soma. While Pyo was stuck in his residence, Soma was exploring non-stop all over Chengdu. Because of that, he prided himself on knowing more about the streets of Chengdu than Pyo. The place Soma particularly liked was the said restaurant. Perhaps it was because he was locked up in the Xiaolian temple and not treated as a human being for a long time. Soma coveted particularly delicious food. So he spent all of his time eating. Soma's here. The owner of Xianjianru looked at Soma. There weren't many people who disliked a cute boy who was only 6 or 7 years old. Even more so if the boy is a regular customer. Soma looked up at the owner and said, "Give me the lamb wagashi. You have to give me a lot." "Okay. I'll give you a lot of meat. If there's someone you want to kill, just tell me. I'll kill them for you." "I don't have anyone I want to kill, little friend." "Then tell me when it happens." "It's unlikely, but I'll tell you when it happens." "All right." Soma nodded his head. The owner of Xianjianru would think it was just a joke, but Pyo was well aware that Soma's words were sincere. Soma only says things like that to the people he really likes, because that was the greatest favor he could give. The two sat facing each other at the table. Soma's short feet didn't even touch the floor, so he sat on the chair while dangling and swaying his feet in the air. He looked so cute that the people sitting nearby looked at him, mesmerized. Pyo imagined what their expression would be like if they knew Soma's true identity. They will never know that behind Soma's cute face was a ferocious beast with its sharp teeth. Soma's eyes suddenly changed. He didn't like the feeling that all the guests of Xianjianru were looking at him fondly. Soma asked, "Can I kill them all?" "No. How about killing one guy to set an example?" "No. Then when can I kill someone?" "Only when I say so." TCH. Brother has become so docile these days. I liked it back then in the Xiaolian temple when I could just kill people randomly. Soma pouted his lips. His expression was filled with dissatisfaction, but he didn't insist any further. "Brother. What is it?" "I like you. Eat your meal." "Yes." Soma smiled broadly.